You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
Hi, David here. In episode 65, if you're listening to this on 65 or you're listening to it at the beginning of 66, I drop a pretty dark and morbid joke regarding my mental health. I struggle with mental health, obviously, if that's not evident from my erratic posts and things that I do and how I am on the podcast. And I deal with it by being funny and making fun of it for myself. I don't make fun of it for other people. That's how I deal with it. We've gotten a whole bunch of people reach out asking if I'm okay. I don't know. I am. I think I'm alive. So I see a therapist weekly. I put a whole video on our Instagram, 10-minute video talking about all of this and how you can get help or help you can identify with it. And I'll also put that on our website if you don't have an Instagram, so you can check it out. But sorry to concern you guys. It's just how I deal with it and how I cope. If you're struggling with anxiety, depression, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or a combination of all of them, please feel free to reach out to me, but make sure you go see someone that you trust and possibly a therapist if you can. Thanks.
Welcome to episode 66 of A Life in Ruins podcast, where we investigate the careers of those living a life in ruins. I'm your host, Carlton Gover, and I am joined by my co-hosts, wonderful co-hosts, Connor, John, and David.
Shut up.
How? Tonight we are continuing our series, Fantastic Domesticates and Where to Find Them. And today we are setting our sights on the New World, which is North and South America. And I promise if you're watching the YouTube version of this, I'm not high. I just woke up from a nap with my contacts in, and this is the last time I'll be recording from this room. I'll actually have an office next time in a new spot. And so judging by that sound, David, let's talk turkey, shall we?
What animal is that? Take a swing.
That a llama? One?
That is a llama. That is a llama.
I guess we're not talking turkey.
As they would say. All right. What'd you have for me?
Let's just go to llamas and alpacas.
Okay.
What's the wild name for llamas? Because vicuñas is wild alpacas.
I think it's just like llamas. There's alpacas and guanacos. Is a guanaco the same thing as a llama? I can't recall.
Yep, guanaco.
Cool.
Guanaco, yeah. The llama and the alpaca are domestic. Okay, yeah, sweet. Guanaco is found in the grasslands of the Andes. Yeah, so that's the largest domesticate found in the North and South America, right?
I mean, yeah, there's probably some big ducks out there, but I'd say the llama is the biggest.
I don't know if you talk about the giant guinea pig.
I'm so startled.
I'm so startled. I'm so startled.
That's a South Park joke.
Season 12, episode 6 of South Park.
That is such a good episode of South Park.
That is not right. I only have that memory for Sunny and Pokemon. Let's see. What did I say? Season?
Yeah, just a South Park Peruvian flute band episode, because that's what it is.
It's fantastic. Go watch it.
Hi, my name's Clyde. My 4 friends from school conned me out of my birthday money to buy Peruvian flute music. I am now in Peru.
It's just playing in the background the whole time.
Oh, wait. Season 12, episode 6 is overlogging. We're actually pretty close.
But yeah, that aside, you have llamas and alpacas. They domesticated llamas, domesticated guanaco, the ancestral llama, for llama meat. And they domesticated vicuñas, ancestral
Oh my
alpacas,
God, season 12, episode 10. I was off by 4 episodes.
Their fur.
Their fur.
Guys, that's not okay.
Well,
Why can't I do times tables?
Why can't you follow alarms or have a schedule?
Oh, I woke up at... I will not legally admit what time I woke up today. My employer could be listening.
11:30.
Did you work from home today?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. Supposed to report for duty in the lab.
Okay,
I came in when I came in. All right.
Back to llamas.
Yeah.
So I was reading online that like ancestors of llamas, they think have actually originated from like the central plains of North America. They go on this crazy journey south about 40 million years ago. and pop into South America. So that by the end of the last ice age, there are no camelids in North America. The progenitor of the llama is living in the Andes, listening to Peruvian flute music and hanging out with Paleo Indians.
Nice.
Yeah, domesticated. Well, no, not the domesticated llamas and alpacas. They believe to get domesticated around
way later. Yeah,
4,500 BC.
But they were there.
They were hunting them and getting their wool. Yeah.
Not domesticated for their milk, which I wanted to talk to you about because you brought up they wanted milk in the old episode. So do people believe that like people were like trapping goats out in Mesopotamia and like sucking on those nips?
Because horses were way later, like Will was saying. They were like 3... I see what you're doing now. They were way later, so they would have realized like, wow, that thing has a lot of milk in it. So they would have like tried to milk it then, and then they were like, oh, we could ride it because they had been milking goats and cows for centuries already, or millennia. I don't think initially they were like, I really want to, meet the Fockers, this thing over there.
Meet the Fockers. That's a reference. I don't know if people will get that. That
was a deep pull.
Ooh, if you know what that reference is, please Google us or send us an email to liferuinspodcast@gmail.com.
Most of the Western Hemisphere is going to know what that reference is.
Yeah, come on.
I don't know. Some of our audience is young, and that's a very particular Meet the Fockers reference.
I got
Robert De Niro.
Focker.
Yeah.
You milk me?
Well, it's Ben Stiller's one that makes it. Yeah.
No big But yeah, so like I think we mentioned this last episode, but once you have an animal corralled for its meat and its hides, you might as well I do remember saying this because you milk it for all it's worth while it's alive and get its milk.
Pun intended.
I guess the male ones you kind of just made pelts out of them pretty quickly.
So they actually they appear in some pre-Incan cultures on their ceramics actually. So you see llamas kind of popping up. I think it's the Moche people.
Moche sex bots.
Yeah.
We finally mentioned it.
We got to there.
Yeah.
So
got there.
Yeah, so they definitely show up in ceramics then, and then they're big in the Incan Empire as well, using as pack animals, fiber, meat.
But they can only carry 20 pounds, and that's it.
30. It's like 30 to 40.
And then if you put any more than that, they just sit down. They're not the best. You have to make a long llama train.
But they're also super sure-footed. They're way more sure-footed than horses. And they also really weird.
Didn't you go on some sort of high alpine? Yeah, you went on a high alpine archaeological expedition, and you guys brought llamas with you.
I'm a wrangler. I'm a llama wrangler official. So, yeah. So as part of my thesis trip, and I've mentioned this before, so you normal listeners just tune out and go listen to NPR or something like that. As part of my thesis trip, I did some survey up in the Wind River Range in Wyoming, so north and west of Laramie on the west end of the state. And as part of that, we did not have horses to kind of carry our stuff. We decided to do llamas instead. Horses are stupid and will break your face. Yeah, so we decided to use llamas, and I got a 2-hour crash course. And then this company decided to let me take their llamas up into the wilderness, apparently, which is a lot of trust.
Yeah.
But they're super simple and super fun animals.
They look simple.
Don't they spit?
Yeah, but you have to earn it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to really piss off a llama to. But they're super strange. They're super ambivalent. Horses will lean into you and kind of nuzzle you and stuff. When you try to pet a llama, it just stares at you what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do they purr?
I think they bleat when they're
Is that it?
Nothing about the llama is appealing. Really.
Right. Yeah. But archaeologically, as Connor mentioned, you see them on ceramics as well as other iconography found around South America, close to the Andes, and including, I think, the Peruvian coast, Chile, Argentinian coast, the very long one. That's a very long country.
Don't you mean Chile?
Chile. Yep.
Chile.
When the conquistadors took over the Incan Empire, they co-opted the llama transport system, because they only brought so many horses with them, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were coming from Spain all the way up in the Andes, like probably they had to do a build a pony situation.
Build a pony. It was Pizarro, right, who did all that nonsense down there?
Pizarro, yeah, Francisco.
And he
Pizarro.
came out of the governorship in Cuba, right? Or was he in Mexico City first? Because he didn't come straight from Spain. He was like one of those guys that came after Cortez. And
That's over my pay grade. I just know he was messing with Atahualpa was the guy's name.
Atahualpa. Yeah, that's
Huayna Capac is like the big main like Incan, their big emperor that like did a lot, like their Alexander the Great type person. And then Atahualpa was the guy that like they were like, hey, you got gold? And he was like fresh out, and they're like, all right, well, say goodbye to your breath. And then choked him out.
And don't forget the emperor that got turned into a llama. I mean, it's really hard to not talk about llamas and not talk about
David
Cusco.
Spade. You know, what's David Spade up to these days?
Did he play Cusco?
Yeah. Of course he did.
Oh, yeah.
Cusco's poison.
Poison for Cusco.
Squeak, 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 squeak.
That's Kronk, though.
Isma. Yeah, that's Kronk. That's Kronk.
What did you? Oh God, yeah, that was such a.
Yeah, he was just a dickhead prince, and they turned him into a llama. Honestly, deserved it, dude. That was a solid movie.
It was a solid movie.
I want to know from you Incan, or you from you Peruvian folks, how that like. Is that an accurate representation? Reach out, especially
the Virginian. Is Pocahontas real? Like, come on.
I'm just saying. I mean, is it normal for humans to like change into llamas when they're being terrible, terrible people? I just want to know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to know.
I'm having flashbacks to like episode 3 with Emily when we were talking about like talking to raccoons and shit.
When you played your flute.
Oh my God. It's
Chris and I.
up.
I think it might have been Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day, or it was some holiday. It was Thanksgiving time. We went over to Chris's place and watched Pocahontas on the projector because he'd never actually seen it. Ashley and I had, though. And we watched it, and we're like, enjoying it. And he's talking the whole time because he's Chris. And then he got to the colors of the wind. And we're like, Chris, shut up. All right, this is like the one moment of the movie you should watch. And then, like, in the middle of the song, as we're all, like, enjoying it because it's solid, he was like, wait, isn't she, like, 14? Just ruined it. And I was like, we can't watch this anymore. It's Mel Gibson hanging out with a 14-year-old.
And that's Chris Rowe, who showed up in 2 episodes. That's who Dave is referring to. Our lovely Chris Rowe.
Still,
He's
I would take
guy.
him to a movie theater any day of the week. Just watching Super Troopers 2 with him in the movies was by far.
Do you remember when we saw it?
Yeah, I remember you almost punched some poor girl out because she was terrified.
Well, no, I didn't know she was terrified. I just heard people behind me going like the whole movie, and I was like, what is going on? And I just turned around and I was like, hey, shut the fuck up.
You got out of your chair, hunched your arms, and just looked at this girl, and I was like, oh, fuck, here we go.
But then afterwards, you were like, dude, she was like terrified, and the boyfriend was consoling her, and I was like, well, she should have shut the fuck up.
She just dipped out, and they didn't say a word. And I'm just sitting there and felt like, oh my God.
Trying to enjoy my $40 movie, dude.
Oh my God. Such a good time.
Anyway, I was going to say, according to Back to Llamas, I was just reading here, it's Montesino 2015. In Aymara mythology, llamas are important, creatures. There's a lot of mythology. And a heavenly llama is said to drink water from the ocean, and it urinates as it rains. So
It makes it rain.
Yes, he does make it rain. The llama golden showers the Andes.
Rain makes corn. Corn makes what is that?
Indian makes potatoes.
No. What is that? That's chicha. Rain makes corn. Corn makes chicha. Chicha makes the Andes get a little frisky.
And we got canceled in South America.
Just spit beer. Just imagine chewing on corn and spitting into a vat, and then drinking it to get fucked up.
Yeah, let's not do that anymore.
This is weird. Yeah.
Oh God.
Should we talk about?
We talked about llama. Where we at?
I say we should do guinea pigs while we're in the high Andes.
Guinea pigs, bred for food, I believe, right? And status items.
Mm-hmm. So they're, of course, rodents. You can think of guinea pigs today. They are also domesticated in the Andes Mountains around 5000 BC. So a little bit later than the llama and alpaca. No, earlier than the llama.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's about 500 years earlier, give or take a couple Fridays, than the llamas and alpacas. And yeah, you can domesticate. Like, you wouldn't think you can domesticate. Why would you use them for meat? But they reproduce so quickly that you can just have these little guinea pig colonies. And like today, they still eat them down in South America. You just fry up the whole. It's called cuy, just the whole thing. Throw it on a barbecue, and it just singes the hair right off. Maybe some paprika on there.
Would you eat it?
Pretty good.
Honestly, I would try it. If I ever went down there, I'd try it. I don't know. How do you, I guess, like, I'm trying to think how you really see those visibly in the archaeological record. Like, I guess
So they're actually, I'm looking at it right now, they're found in human burials. So I think it's,
What do I know?
yeah. So they're found with humans. I think they're just bones or,
Interesting. So they were status type things, or
yeah, I think so. Along with the Muscovy ducks. So,
huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
and the ducks are around. I don't know what a Muscovy duck looks like. And they're domesticated around AD 100, just generally in South America.
Mm-hmm. They were kept inside houses, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
They're really pretty ducks. Like,
Those
if you look at
people
a
were
picture
not
of them-
sleeping.
Oh my god!
Actually, just kidding. That's a Drake Mandarin duck. I don't know why I'd click on this, and it gives me the wrong kind of duck.
I live next to ducks, and it's like a constant, just like the noise that David was making.
Just shoot them. Do you have a shotgun? They taste good. Like, duck is good.
Shoot my domesticated neighbor's flock of ducks. Do you
Oh,
think
dude, they're
that'll go over
domesticated
well?
even better. I mean, just take it
Why?
away. To
Why?
eat. We're talking about
There's
domestication.
a type of duck that humans drove to extinction here with dogs. I forget which one it is, but it's like confirmed that's one not megafauna, but like a fauna
So we're talking about giant ducks.
that we definitely drove to extinction. And they were like, yeah, that's our bad.
Oh my god! There has to be a giant duck that lived.
Check
Along with-
Australia. Just look, go to the back of the book. It's there probably.
Oh, there's a giant rubber ducky.
There's a giant duck on Long Island. It's called the Big Duck, and I think Dave Attell went there on Insomniac. Deep pull. I know. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. And then, like, I mean, just dialing back real quick, like, we can see alpaca domestication, one, through a lot of the textiles that the Andes cultures were producing. And since they are in dry environments, especially that high up, it's easy to see textiles. And so we see a lot of alpaca fur being used, especially in quipus, which, for those that aren't aware, the Incan record-keeping system wasn't written. It was done in a series of elaborate knots on different lengths, colors, sizes of strings, and in certain patterns. Like, it's crazy.
It's like an abacus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Or
not
like a
just
more
math.
Yeah,
but
a more
it's like-
complex version.
It's crazy. And I don't think there's anything else like that we see in the world, but I might be wrong. But highly recommend looking up how the quipu system was made. And starting to let's touch on, we're right here at the break.
Let's
and
tie the knot on this segment.
God.
I mean, it was good. It's good. It's just like,
Yep. This is episode 66. We'll be right
do I
back.
want to keep hosting the show? No. Right. So I've been hanging out down under, and I've learned myself some didgeridoo music. Got ourselves a dingo here, right? And then you also have yourself, then you also have yourselves the kookaburra, and you go. It's terrible, mate. Keep
Are you
going.
sure that wasn't just barking dog?
Now, were dingoes or
Apparently it's the
kookaburras
same
domesticated? Like, are any of these relevant?
Nope, not at
This
all,
is
but-
episode 66, by the way,
funny
of A
you
Life
say
in
that.
Ruins.
Because the guy in the video was like, all right, here's the kookaburra. And I was like, that was just the dingo. You didn't do anything different except make it faster. But I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Episode 66. We're doing things, I think.
We are. I mean, do we ever do things on this podcast? Except just upset people. So yeah, another key place where animals were domesticated is Central America, and specifically Mexico. And we have a couple cool things that come out of that area in particular. Now, of course, it's widely held belief. I think A.R. Perry, Dr. Perry's article, the recent one on dog genomics in Nature, highly suggests that indigenous peoples who migrated into the Americas came with dogs. So they already have dogs here. And so that's just kind of a given. We talked about that in the first part of this series and talked somewhat about it last time.
I'm trying to find the name of the article. I forgot.
I think it's in the references for the dogs one.
I didn't put it in there. It's I put the book. That
but you put Dianetics by friggin' L. Ron Hubbard. David,
I'll get the show notes. And if you put me in charge of the show notes, you're gonna have to go check it again, mostly for spelling errors, but also to make sure I didn't put any Scientology in there because I'm a full-blown science.
So turkeys get domesticated in Mexico around 100 BC to 100 AD.
And the Southwest too.
Well, that's part of that whole region. Northern. There's 5 kinds of turkeys apparently.
Yeah, it's like the ones in the Southwest are different, but the ones from Mexico are the ones that like roam the states.
Yeah. But there's 5 kinds. If you get all 5, it's called doing the Grand Slam. The turkeys in the Rocky Mountains they're only, I think they're the only migratory ones. That's why it's hard to find them. Unlike if you're in where I'm from in Virginia, as long as you know they're in a cornfield, they're going to be there. They just have eyes like velociraptors, but totally going on a tangent.
I mean, they are.
Yeah. They're little velociraptors.
And chickens are little T-Rexes.
Indeed.
That's the thing. It freaks me out because like if you watch chickens and turkeys walk around or just little birds, that's like imagine a T-Rex walk with its little head bobbing like that. It's terrifying. I don't want that.
100% terrifying. So, I mean, turkeys have multitude of uses. I mean, you have meat, eggs. Also, their feathers are really good for otlotl darts. And I think specifically, I'd have to ask Devin on this. Either you get 2 kinds of feathers. You get the wing feathers and tail feathers. One's better for arrows and one's better for otlotl darts. So
one's
from the same
better
animal.
For shaking too.
Yep, shimmying.
Shake your tail feather.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Carlton, do you remember
Sorry.
the conversation we had about the feather I found up my backyard?
Vaguely, you'll have to remind me.
I sent Carlton a picture of a feather, and I was like, what kind of bird is this? Because I just assumed Carlton knows birds. And he was like, it's definitely a turkey. And I was like, but I have like 6-foot high fences, and there's no wild turkeys here. Like, how am I going to... Ended up being a barred owl. Came from the tree above my house. But it's just funny. Like, imagining some flying turkey in my neighborhood. It's just like dropping feathers.
So sorry, Carlton. You were talking about different types of feathers. There's the tail
that was
feathers.
about it. One's either you can either make from one turkey you can make arrow fletchings or otlotl fletchings. Yeah, and also I think feathers in general were used if you overlap feather. Like turkey feathers in particular, if you overlap them on a shield, that thing can deflect projectile points. Anyone that hunts turkeys know, even with a shotgun, if you don't shoot them in their little bald necks, you will not kill them, and that your shotgun pellets will bounce off because they're so thick, which is why you got to shoot them in the head with some bird shot and just hope you just turn that into Swiss cheese.
I was listening to the Bear Grease podcast with Clay Newcomb, and they had like a bunch of like champion bird callers on there, or like turkey callers, and it's like impressive how like well people can like mimic that call. And apparently that's how you hunt them. You just like call and they're like, "What's up?" and then you just blast them.
Yeah, there's 2 ways to do it. One, like early in the morning,
like, girl.
They're really responsive to being startled. So in the morning you'll hear someone use like a loud crow call, and that will get them to gobble, so you can find out where they are.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Yeah, it's a crow call first. Yeah,
just so they're, and then you're like, okay, they're in that tree. You wait for them to come down, and you want to call them to you because their eyesight's so good. You can't stalk them. You just basically have to sit there in full camouflage, like it's usually netting over your eyes.
Yeah.
And your shotgun's already ready to go. And even like when I hunt turkeys, I don't even raise my other hand to it. I rest my shotgun on my knee and just kind of swing it where I need to go because they're very perceptive little bastards.
Huh. You wouldn't think that because they're giant, clumsy. I mean, they're not clumsy, but they're just like big looking animals.
Yeah. Wild ones aren't that big, like the butterball turkeys aren't all that. Yeah. There's a lot of GMOs in there.
Oh my God. All right, I'm not going to tell another story, but
no, tell it. We have time.
I was in Laramie. Was it last June? Staying at an Airbnb, and they were like, the guy advertised that there were eggs in the morning, and he would like put eggs on the door, and I was like, all right. And I hear like some bird calling, and I like was like, oh man, I forgot. Yeah, you said there's chickens. And then like as I kept walking, this like giant turkey rounds the corner, and he's like, it's a turkey. And I was like, oh. He thinks I'm some city boy idiot. But then I opened up the cattle gate before he got to it, and I proved to him, at least in my head, that I wasn't some city boy, because Danny Walker called that the Wyoming IQ test.
Yeah,
you gotta know how to open a cattle gate.
We couldn't even open at Connor's wedding. Me and you couldn't figure out the bear-proof trash cans.
And Connor's dad was like, "Don't you have 2 degrees?" And the entire wedding's just watching me struggle to open up a bear.
And I was trying to help you, and he was making fun of me. So, aren't you getting a PhD? And there's just me and David there with like combined 12 years of schooling, or like pawing out a trash can like Yogi Bear, like, oh, I can't throw away my. It was, and he just walks over and does it for us, and I was like, Dean Johnin, God bless that man.
He was a good guy.
Yeah.
Really bad taste.
We weren't even drunk. We were 100% sober.
Yeah. So turkeys, like that's the wild turkeys. How do you like? What's like a domestic turkey? Like how's that work?
I believe
they're just turkey farms.
Yes, and then they were first domesticated in the basin of Mexico, and you also find them in the Southwest. You find turkey kennels, I believe, in Mesa Verde, Chaco Canyon, and those places are later around, after 1000 AD. And so turkeys have been domesticated right around the turn of, what is that called when you go from BC to AD? The turn of the millennia, or
Jesus? The Common Era.
Yeah, you get into the Common Era. And so you see them pretty much without the southwestern world in the valley and basin of Mexico. And on Age of Empires 2, the Conquistador expansion, you can domesticate turkeys along with sheep.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
So I just realized why I can't do math. Never mind. All right.
So yeah, and they're really found through the eggshells and the bones, or how do you find them archaeologically. And there's been quite a few studies that I see on this document that tells me everything, comparing different sizes and different varieties, and it appears that it's a pretty complex kind of domestication. I think it occurs in. Wow. Yeah, and in the Mexican basin, like Carlton was saying, then there's different varieties that pop up in the Southwest. They think there's 3 varieties of turkeys they've found at Casas Grandes, 80, 250. I mean, they did some damage up there.
Were they originally bred for like cockfighting, like the chicken, or were they just straight up bred for the meat? Do we have any info on that?
Probably the meat.
That's what I would think too, because I always thought it was the chickens, like for the meat and the eggs, but apparently it was cockfighting first, and then they were like, "Oh wait, these things just pump out eggs."
Wait, really?
Yeah, I did not know that. They come from Southeast Asia with a jungle fowl, and they were like, "These things hate each other when you put them in a shoebox together. Let's make some really good ones." And people would meet up and like have them fight, and then they were like, I guess like the hens or whatever in the things where they were breeding them were just popping out eggs, and they'd eat them, and they're like, all right, this is better.
Sweet. Yeah. Also, the stingless bee is domesticated in Mexico. Whoa. A little bit before turkeys, and honey, I don't think.
Look at them. They had the forethought to save the bee population back then. Be like the ancient Mexicans.
Be like the ancient Mexicans.
Boo.
Mexicans.
I'm just kidding. No, so I guess they found it in the coprolites of folks living there.
Bees?
Or like pollen associated with bees. But I don't think they found any sort of direct evidence that they've been kept in hives or something like that. But they're at least procuring it in some sort of fashion.
So the bees are coming out of the jungles, and particularly related to pre-classic Mayans. I wonder if they made mead. It's in the bees are in the Codex, the Madrid Codex, which is named after,
Well, they were making chumash for sure. Not chumash. What is that stuff called?
And the Aztec Mendoza codexes show images of towns giving jars of honey to the Aztecs for tribute. I didn't know that.
There's some. So apparently, I'm reading from an early article. It was domesticated. This bee was domesticated by cutting a 2 to 3 foot section of hollow log, drilling a flight hole, and then stopping the ends with plugs made of clay or stones mixed with clay that could be removed to collect the wax and honey to propagate the hives. So they're just trapping them in their existing kind of areas. God, that's got to be a crappy job without any sort of protection.
But they're the stingless bee.
Oh, they're stingless?
Yeah, the stingless bee in particular.
Or did they breed that into them?
I have no idea. That I think there's already like over 50 species of bees in Colorado alone. So I can imagine that there is a naturally stingless bee.
Interesting. Let me correct myself too. Chumash is a indigenous tribe in Southern California. I knew that's why that name was in my head. Chicha is the Incan drink, like
spit beer.
Drink. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. But chumash because they chew it and spit it out. I think it was what I was confusing myself with in my head.
Excellent. And what else is domesticated around here? Possibly macaws.
Oh, right. Yeah, and you get the macaw feathers everywhere.
It's kind of like sometime before 1000 AD, you find macaw cages. There's some in Chaco Canyon, and they're all male macaws based on the genetic evidence, which I believe the male macaws are the only one. They're the pretty birds with all the colors.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I think. And so what you have is someone trading in Chaco. They have like, I guess, a macaw market, and they're trying to just keep the males up there. So that way, if someone can't run away with a male and a female and create their own. Oh. And the feathers are also, you see them in codices. They're highly prized. Like they are a very pretty feather.
Right.
And so it's just one of those trade goods that are used in decoration. That's specifically what the macaws are possibly domesticated for. They're clearly being trapped and moved around because macaws aren't native to northern New Mexico.
Right. But they find the feathers there.
They're finding the feathers in the cages and the fecal matter.
Polly wants some chicha or something.
Oh.
Ooh.
Polly wants some chicha.
Well, I guess we can, speaking of chicha, Polly wants some plant matter. There's the coca, which I wouldn't say is like domesticated, but then there's like cocoa or cacao and then coca.
I mean, there's like a host of domesticated plants that we can go into.
Peanuts and
that, yeah.
They were going off sweet potato, which, then ended up in.
We need to find someone that knows that because I want to talk about that. David sent us. How did you get on that rabbit hole?
What rabbit hole?
The whole sweet potato thing in Polynesia.
One of the arts I have for the book is the Polynesia thing I had our Tori make. So then I was like, I should probably learn about Polynesia. And I spent an entire weekend like hyper focusing on learning everything about, but not like, I don't mean to say like a little bit. I like stayed up for 3 days, like reading everything about the Pacific Islanders. And I was like, whoa, this is fascinating. And I like didn't want to believe that they got to South America to get the sweet potato to bring it back to like New Zealand and all over, but they did. It's pretty crazy. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about the Columbian exchange and the effect of Columbus and on
People were
domestic?
pretty stoked on Columbus back then.
Yeah, he's a great guy because he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong.
Absolutely nothing.
Hashtag free Columbus.
So, I mean, we could talk about, because I think there's a lot of these animals that we think are domesticates from here, but are actually just the product of Columbus bringing over and ruining North America.
Isn't there a shift to rename the Columbian Exchange to something like less glamorous?
Just pre and post contact, I would think, but that's also kind of ethnocentric in itself.
It's not the Atlantic Safe Trade.
That's one letter off from the bad one.
Yeah, that's a different one.
There's got to be a better way.
Right. Minks are from? Okay.
That makes sense.
turkeys. Hold on one second. Muscovy ducks. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Go ahead, Connor.
Okay, so I mean, we can talk about horses. We didn't really talk about them much, I don't think, in the first one. So horses are not from here originally. There was a precursor to the horse that lived in North America, what, like 10K?
Yeah.
Yeah.
11K?
No, horses are from the New World. They go over the bridge. And then the ones that stayed here died. And then, yeah.
But the ones, all the ancestors of the ones we know today come from Europe.
España. Primarily. Most horses, I guess. I think Will Taylor's doing that whole genetics research, trying to figure those out, like specifically where do wild Mustangs predominantly come from. I think, have you guys ever been to North Carolina? Nags Head, Myrtle Beach, not Myrtle Beach, Corolla, but they have wild horses out there, and I'm pretty sure those are.
Oh yeah, there's like ponies on those little islands,
and it's because someone crashed there and all the ponies got out, and I don't think they're Spanish. I think that's English.
We'll put that thought into a corral and catch it in the next segment.
Excellent.
Oh my God. Connor's
Episode 66 of a Life in Ruins podcast. We will catch you in the third segment.
All right, welcome back. You're here with the Three Stooges again of Archaeology.
Nope.
So we're here with Columbian Exchange, which according to Wikipedia is the widespread transfer of plants, animals, culture, human populations, technology, diseases, and ideas between the Americas and the Old World in the 15th and 16th centuries. Named after Christopher Columbus and is related to European colonization, clearly. And so keeping it with animals, there was a lot more animals that came to the Americas than went to Europe. So pretty much.
Does it say the transfer of human populations?
Yeah.
Is there an asterisk on that?
American Indians were used as slaves and brought to Europe.
Okay.
They were the first ones.
Say like you should just say human trafficking. It's like what I meant to say.
That's like in terms of like the social zeitgeist of what's going on in terms of this call to rename a lot of stuff, like, you know, slave trade is human trafficking.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. They're putting people on cargo ships, shipping them off to Timbuktu. Or no, from Timbuktu.
From Timbuktu, yeah.
To the sugar plantations. And they were like, all right, see you guys.
Oh, my God.
Not really see you guys. They were right there with them, yelling at them. Yeah, anyway, charming note. Let's, what were we getting at?
So, Old World to New World, all the things that we talked about. Pretty much we're coming to the U.S.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like, can you imagine like the South without wild hogs? Like, it's just not a thing.
Or the West without cattle.
In a Huey helicopter with a minigun. Did you
just call him Ted Nugent?
Nugent?
Like the chocolate?
I always thought Ted Nugent was the guy from
Happy
like Smashing Pumpkins.
Over chocolate-covered mountaintops with waterfalls of caramel.
You have to say something.
Prancing Nugent in the meadow sings a song of satisfaction to the world.
Isn't there a guitar player named like Ted Nugent?
The world. Yeah, he's the one crazy dude. Hates liberals, Nugent. But also pissed himself to avoid Vietnam. Oh,
that's the same guy.
Yeah, same dude.
Oh.
Stranglehold's his big song. Got you in a stranglehold, baby.
Billy Corgan is the Smashing Pumpkins guy, so never mind. He looks just like Bill Burr.
Does he really?
Bill Burr. Yeah, look him up.
I love how when we were watching The Mandalorian. And there's Bill Burr. You're just like, man, he just plays like a blue collar Boston guy no matter what role he's in.
Every role he's in, he's just like, I'm in the scrap yard. Just a blue collar guy.
I don't understand. Can you wear a Mando helmet, but you can wear a Stone Trooper helmet? I just don't get it.
He did a good job in that.
He was so good.
Yeah, he did awesome.
God, I really like Bill Burr. Really like Bill
Speaking
Burr.
of goats, Mando's the goat. Greatest of all time.
Is Dave Chappelle.
Okay. No, you're right. So on that same note, no wild boar, no Ted Nugent down there shooting from his helicopter. Could you imagine the West without cattle?
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, I can.
It'd be great.
Carlton's like, they took everything from me.
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
Back in the
flashbacks.
days when the buffalo roamed free, and there was not a spotted cow to see.
Like
Yeah.
even Tennessee or like New York when I was a kid going upstate to visit my dad's family, like there's just dairy farms everywhere. My dad's a dairy farmer.
Really?
Grew up that way. Yeah, it's what he grew up as.
I have an
It's what
uncle
it is.
who does that as well.
And they just there's just cows everywhere. That's like what I thought, and that's just not a thing. They're like a Middle Eastern giant animal, and they're like just chilling in Rochester, like just like not natural.
Oh God! Could you imagine being on a ship across the Atlantic with like 500 cows?
Here's the other thing to imagine. Imagine you couldn't afford the ticket, so you had to hide in a bit. Sorry, I'm doing the Tim Dillon thing, hanging down in the bottom, but like you couldn't afford it, so you hid in the hay in the cow stall to get yourself to the new world. You're like, oh, I'm ready for a new life. As soon as I spend 6 months hanging out in this hay, the cow shit, it happened for sure. That'd be awful.
Do they have to do like a mound in the center like they do in fields so they didn't like choke on their own gas?
I have no idea. I mean, they didn't take that much cattle. I think it was like a couple head.
It's pretty bad when I know more about how they shipped people in ships than how they shipped cows, dude. Like, I don't know. They should teach something different in school.
Because they're in the hold at the bottom. So even if you're a sailor and trying to sleep, they're all below you. You can just smell it. I guess like after a while, you just get nose blind,
sleep.
smell blind.
Yeah, that's true. But everybody back then, dude, smelled like BO and campfire.
Well,
so
and
like
I guess
at a certain point, that's just what you smelled like.
Well, they also brought ostriches. Like, could you imagine being on that ship where you have those noodle neck velociraptors below you?
There's a lady on TikTok that like hangs out with this ostrich and is always trying to attack her, and she like,
oh my God, I've seen that.
Throat. Yeah,
she's like, no.
Yeah, it's like there's a.
Don't they have like huge like talons?
Yeah, there's like a Utah raptor coming at you. Like, go away! Like, get this off my feed. Anyway, yeah. So there's animals that are from the old world that are brought here. So cats have decimated wildlife populations here just because people let them out. I'm guilty myself. Jon Snow had a kill count of like over 2,000. That
Strider,
cat, dude.
Strider gets an assist on one of those.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Strider has never caught anything, but he only ever caught animals that Jon Snow dropped. And he was like, oh, nice. I got myself a bird. Strider carried around all happy. And I was like, you didn't get that. But yeah, he would just hide out in a bush at my parents' house and just like stick his little claw out and bring in like a bird or a mouse or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then Laramie, he would just roam the neighborhood. I was walking Strider at the park. Was it Labont? The one that's with the lake in the middle? Mm-hmm. Just walking Strider there, and then Jon Snow just comes out of a bush and he's like, oh, hey, man. Just my cat casually at the park with me. But right. So the point is that like cats are just so efficient at murdering that they, and I use murdering correctly because like sometimes they don't even eat the animal. They just kill it. And like they destroy birds and rabbits and other small animals in the like reptiles too here, and have like decimated, ecosystems with that. So bringing animals here is not great.
Well, especially if you talk about like cattle and ecosystem destruction and sheep and goats and all that stuff. I mean, the destruction that they have on landscapes is just it's horrible. Yeah.
Another crazy thing though too is like we were talking about horses that are they're indigenous to here, or were at some point, and then they died and came back, but like they are meant for this landscape. Cattle are not. Like bison are, but like aurochs cattle are not. So like they chew the grass, like bite it, like they shave the grass essentially and bite the top, whereas horses uproot it, the whole thing. So like one completely alters the environment differently than the other. So like with cows, it's just like, and then there's all this like, do we keep the BLM horses? And they like take helicopters and shoot them. And it's like, well, it's kind of like where they're from, but we also brought them and let them go. It's tough.
That's interesting, especially because they're like, you have feral and wild. They basically just, like you were saying, are bred or grew up in this environment. It's like do so well that they can go back to being wild and not just die immediately. Like if you put a cow by itself out there, it's gonna die.
And doing so hot. Pigs, they can go wild. But yeah, there's like,
Pigs
I think
are wild.
there's 5 wild Mustang herds in Colorado managed by the BLM in the Western Slope. And it's just always a problem. The BLM will pay you to take one. I mean, it's $1,000, which goes up real quick. But they're so desperate to manage those herds because they proliferate, because they don't have, even though they evolved here, 10,000 years is a long time to not have them. And especially with one of their main predators being wolves, still
Not here to eat them.
crawling back from extinction. Bears aren't that quick, and mountain lions, they're not really, it's hard. So.
Yeah.
They have no natural thing to kind of keep those population in check.
And we're not allowed to eat horses. So, I mean, it's not like something we can do.
Yeah, and like there were dire wolves and saber tooths like back then, like culling populations, and now there's just not.
Paleo Indians, because I think the Mahaffey cache here that you guys saw, that had both camel and horse DNA on some of those knives.
Interesting.
Is that the blood serum stuff?
The what?
Is it like blood serum?
I have
analysis?
no clue.
Okay.
It's just on the exhibit. That's a Doug question. I have no idea how he figured that out.
Okay.
What else gets brought here? Goats, sheep. I mean, there's bighorn sheep here, but like domestic sheep get brought here too. And there's like vast amounts of sheep. I remember driving to, was it Jody's wedding down on the western? It's like down towards where you live or lived. Driving down the western slope, and the person that I was in the car with, I had to wake them up and be like, "Hey, look," and like looked over at this cliff, and I thought it was like an avalanche because I'm from like out east, but what I saw was 500 sheep coming down like a mountainside, just casually like at a 90-degree angle, and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy!" And they just like, I assume, alter the landscape and like do. Well, I mean, people then too. You got to fence them in, and then all that.
Well, like you were saying. Those are the same one of the ones that take out the whole root, everything. Yeah. So they completely destroy whatever's existing there.
And mountain goats, mountain sheep, and bighorn sheep, never domesticated. Those are all New World species. And by the time the Columbian Exchange had ended, European settlers really hadn't seen those quite yet, because they're on the west side of the Mississippi. So those aren't ancestors of like European sheep or goats. Those are specifically, the New World things. I met some dude when I was visiting the Denwoody Rock Art. When he found out I was an archaeologist, he's like, "Did you know that they used to paint bighorn sheep butts red? And that's where all the red paint on the walls comes from." And I was just like, I think I mentioned this before. And I was just like, what did you just tell me?
Talk about baboons? Like, what
I was so confused. I was like, they were never domesticated, man. It was weird.
Here's a question. I guess, Connor, were you about to ask the same thing?
I was going to ask about early sheep herders in North America, if you guys know anything about them. Like early Basque sheep herders out.
Oh, yeah, dude. I saw a Longmire episode about this, and that got me interested in the Basque sheep herding.
What were you going to ask about?
I was going to say, we don't have to get into it now, but like I don't think there was a big complex civilization in the Rockies, like out west. I guess Chaco and southern Colorado are like the closest. But like, had there been like a civilization up there, like in the Middle East, do you think they would have domesticated bighorn sheep and goats and stuff?
I have no idea.
You might be able to get the ewes to, but the males are so...
It might like
aggressive.
They might not be able to be like around humans. And
but
stuff.
so were wolves. I mean, honestly, I could see it because you find all those corral sites and drive sites.
Yeah.
Hashtag Kelton Meyer. It would just take one guy to be like, "What if we didn't kill them immediately?"
All right, let's go with Kyle's plan. Connor, what were you gonna? So the herders.
So there's like a. And Carlton, you might have delved more into this, but there's this really interesting early history in like the 1800s of Basque people from Spain coming to the New World and having big sheep herds and roaming across the landscapes in Wyoming, Colorado, I think probably Nebraska, all these kind of areas.
Primarily mountainous areas. So this is like 19th century, mid to late 19th century, the Basque are coming in. The Basque region is the saddle between Spain and France. They now today primarily wield RPGs and want independence as it goes. Very interesting people, very amazing culture. They come to the West and they just kind of get on this whole sheep herding thing, which is what they did in Basque country and these highlands, and they just recreate it. And there's these pockets of Basque populations
And the bighorns
in the Mountain West. Yeah, especially in Wyoming. That's this little, they're like, not like the Amish, but like kind of that same sense of community and homogeneity between keeping it Basque. And yeah, it's a fascinating subculture. And then, of course, the Dene, the Navajo, adopt massive sheep herding post reservation era. And that's a big source of their income. Well, that, and then they realize that they're sitting on a lot of uranium.
That'll do it. But you also see like evidence, lots of these Basque artifacts in Wyoming in the form of carvings and other, what is stacked rocks features. I can't even remember what they're called right now.
Cairns?
Cairns, stuff like that.
Dude, you know,
it's Cairn. Cairn has been commandeered.
Why?
I don't want to call a rock formation a Karen. Someone who has a meltdown in the Costco for not wearing a mask.
Oh, good. That was good. I like that. Karen. Yep. Sweet. Yep. Yesterday for work, we went to a excavation going on in Golden in an old hotel. There was a little haunted. A mid-archaic point came out of an 1800s trash pit. The dude pulled it out and was like, and then looked at it and then showed it to the PI, and she's like, holy shit. And then she showed it to me and I was like, God damn. And it's beautiful. And we're just kind of sitting there like, why is this here? Like, it's one of those big suckers with basal convex bases and side notched, corner notched.
Well, I mean, go back to our first episode with Spencer. I think I asked him that question, like, why do you think people like this stuff? And he's like, they just do. So people back then were just like, this arrowhead is awesome, and just collected it and then ended up in their trash bin.
Also a Chinese coin. It's fun. Sorry, I totally got derailed, but thinking about historic Basque things, it was like that's something, a couple thousand years old, then found in a where Coors makes its water beer.
Yeah.
According to Dave the Caveman.
See, Coors is my, like, it's the drink I have in my house. If I'm like, hey, you want a beer? Like, it's just, I have them on hand. I also still have the Yingling from when you were here, Connor. I just don't drink beer. It's a full case of it. It takes up a lot. It takes up a whole shelf of my fridge.
America's oldest brewery. Tastes like it too.
Everywhere I go, I have to like sample the local beer. So I'm up here in Washington, and Olympia is the
I
beer.
Hate Olympia.
And Rainier. So you just got to go.
I do like Rainier. Only
Rainier's
because of
not bad.
Longmire. Yeah. Longmire. I got Rainier because of Longmire.
Yeah, and Linglings out in the, or Yinglings, whatever it is.
Yingdings.
Ringdings.
I was gonna bring up, like, with the beer comment, like, wheat gets brought here too. Like, Carlton didn't have wheat here.
I did not
before
have
the Columbian
wheat,
Exchange.
Ooh,
and like that, like, we have like amber ways of grain, and like that one song, it's like we're known for having like a giant bread basket here.
Can I say something? I went to a Mormon service the other day for reasons. They started off the service with the national anthem. Like, in the hymn book are like patriotic songs.
I mean, it's an American religion. It's and every Mormon I've ever met has been a delightful person.
100%. I just thought
maybe
that
they're just
stood
stoked
out
on America.
That's interesting.
It stood out. Where I was like, coming from Roman Catholic, that's just not something we bring out.
Growing up around Catholics, when I would go to little services like them, they're like, "You're all going to hell. Please put money in the thing. Hey, how are you? Today we're gonna have Holy Communion for Michael." It's just like way different. That was a derailment.
All right. On that beautiful derailment, I think that is a good teaser talking about crops and plants. I think that'll probably be the episode of our next Domesticates, fantastic Domesticates, and where to find them.
So if you thought this was boring, wait till we get into the plants.
I think this one was fun. I didn't fall asleep. I only used my phone once, twice, maybe 3 times. Here's the thing, though. I'm going to leave this for the audience here. I had a thought, and it completely disappeared. It was something about the potato.
The sweet
We're going to
potato.
talk about how an Incan tuber from the Andes ruined Ireland. Top of the morning to you. All right, peace out.
I thought it was the British that ruined Ireland, but yeah. So please
what it is.
rate and review the podcast. It really means we need reviews.
Wait,
And
is saying top of the morning to you, will that get me canceled in 30 minutes?
Yeah.
I don't think so,
Yeah.
David. I think it's totally fine. It should be okay.
Yeah, canceled.
Where's Tristan Boyle when we need him?
Hi guys, it's Tristan here, part of the APN, kind of in charge of the APN, you'd say. I do listen to these. You know, it's not like they go under the radar, and the increasing anti-Irish sentiment on these podcasts have been flagged to my attention, and that's why I'm giving you one last chance. I'm warning you, I don't want any more paddywhackery.
Merch store. Go buy merch.
Do the merch thing, guys. Come on. Like, hit our link tree, get some merch, you know?
Check out our OnlyFans.
Check out our
Yes,
OnlyFans.
go to our link tree, find our OnlyFans. It exists. There's a link for it.
There is a link to our OnlyFans. And then, you know, give us a rate and review our podcast. If you hate us, if you don't hate us, just tell us, you know, like, I hate the sound of Connor's voice, and that's if that's your whole review, great. It's still, we need it for the algorithm. And you're like, I hate all Jews. Like, David will give that a thumbs up, and I'll be like, great, it's feedback, you know. So like, just do it.
That, or you can say nice things. How'd you find the podcast? Maybe you listen to it in class or have your students, like, just let us know what you and your friends think about the podcast. If you have any recommendations for guests or shows, please let us know. If you want to be on, email us with your CV. We have a whole list of people and trying to sort out our schedule. And yeah, get some sweet Life in Ruins merch. That's the only way we make anything, money, really. But,
Yeah.
you know, rep the swag. And if you have fan art or ideas for merch, send them to us and we'll work out a deal.
Yeah. I'd like to qualify that by saying that I don't agree with the statement in which I would thumbs up, but I would thumbs up it because it's your opinion and it's feedback. I should have said that. Yes, Carlton's right. Get the merch. Do all the things.
And
This
we
is
are...
episode 66. Thanks for listening to A Life in Ruins podcast.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at A Life in Ruins Podcast, and you can also email us at alifeinruinspodcast@gmail.com.
And remember, make sure to bring your archaeologists in from the cold and feed them beer. So I wanted to give a shout out to Wesley Marak, who gave us the joke last week. I didn't say that. Thank you for sending it in. And this week, it's coming from the one and only Caleb Welch.
Oh my God. I talked to Shane Miller about him today.
We love you, Caleb.
We love Caleb.
So how much does it cost to put a roof on a house?
A shingle and a dime? I don't know.
It's free since it's on the house.
That's clever.
Oh my goodness.
That's clever. Okay.
I
I
have a
hate it. It's clever.
I believe I had a shout out I was going to give. A few people DM'd me. I think I sent it to you guys.
If we're doing shout outs, Georgia Butcher. She
Butcher.
listens to all the time and sends us stuff.
Alistar Henderson. Anybody who reached out to us about doing field schools this year and did one, congrats. They're probably over by now. So good for you guys. You know?
They might be in the swing. So some are going into mid-July.
Yeah, but this isn't going to come out until like October.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah, this will come out end of July. Yeah, congrats if you made it through field school.
Yeah, I had some other ones we were going to shout out. People message me.
We'll do a giant list for next one because I have some too, and I've never really done the shout out thing, but I have a list.
Yeah, if you guys want a shout out, if you give us $1 on Patreon, we will read your name. If you make it funny, give us a joke, we will read it. That's all you gotta do. Just $1.
One whole dollar.
And $2, one of us will do the podcast with our shirt off. Will not be me.
Well, it's going to be Connor.
Nope.
Connor's the only one that has a chest worth looking at.
No, it's
I look like an orangutan. Okay, so yeah, that was all. Thank you so much for joining us on Life Roads Podcast. We will see you guys next week.
That was really something really funny, hilarious actually. And where I come from, the way we express laughter is sometimes by doing someone's knees in. Be careful, it might be yours.
This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV Traveling America, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.